Hello there, cat people. Dan the Catman here, and welcome to episode 49 of the Shelter Cats podcast. I'm here alone. Michelle is on assignment, which is a fancy way of saying she's not here today. Hoping she'll be with us in the next episode. So this episode is entitled "Where the Heck Have I Been?" And I wanted to kind of update you. I know it's been a long time between episodes and I haven't had many episodes lately. So I wanted to kind of give you an update and let you know what's going on and why we haven't been on much lately. And the much touted season 3 has only had 2 episodes. So I owe you an explanation. First of all, thank you for your patience. Thank you for bearing with me, bearing with the show, and for everything that you've done and for listening. Even though we had much fewer episodes in 2024, I think they were really good, high quality episodes. So I'm very, very pleased with the show. But I wanted to kind of give you an explanation as to where the show's been. So we ended season 2 in May, and the original plan was to take off the summer and try to record some video footage. And, we had all these ideas in mind. And to quote my favorite John Lennon song, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. And, life kind of got in the way. Work was busy. The summer just flew by. And before we knew it, it was August. We hadn't really done much prep, but we started recording season 3. We got episode 47 and 48 recorded. I think they were great episodes. Thank you for your listening. And, the reception they got was pretty big because we're using the new Riverside. No, this way. The new Riverside. I'm trying to point at it. See it? Riverside. This is the background. Obviously, I'm not in their studios. As you could probably plainly tell, I'm in my home studio. So we started recording. We got the 2 episodes down. And then, like I said, life happened. In Labor Day weekend, so on Labor Day weekend, Taylor fell ill. He woke up. I woke up the Saturday of Labor Day weekend and noticed that his mouth was open and he was drooling and he was in a lot of pain. All of a sudden, literally the night before, he was fine and he was perfectly normal. And then he woke up that Saturday morning. So that was Labor Day weekend. So like September 1st. And his mouth wouldn't close and he was having a lot of pain. So I rushed him to the vet. It turned out he had a bad case of gingivitis. And cats, they will hide their illnesses until the last possible second. And that's mostly because that's their instinct in the wild, is to hide their illness so that they don't appear vulnerable to potential prey. So that instinct, even though at home you'd like to get the point across to them, you're not in any danger. There are no predators. Let me know. It doesn't work with cats, and that instinct still carries through, and they hide their illness until literally the last possible second when it is so bad they can't hide it anymore. So he had very bad gingivitis, and he needed one of his fangs extracted. And to add insult to injury or rub salt into the wound, he had unbeknownst to any of us, he had a heart murmur. And that heart murmur was like middle of the scale, strong enough to prevent him from having the extraction. So at the time, this was Saturday of Labor Day weekend, it was thought that his time would be short and that we were going to manage the pain and what they called palliative care, kind of like cat hospice. Manage the pain, manage the symptoms as best as possible. So most of September kind of went out the window because I was, nursing Taylor back to health. By a good fortune or a good miracle, the fang fell out on its own. He didn't even need the extraction. As September went on, the painkillers helped the pain until he was able to need the painkillers less and less. the fang kind of came out on its own. Don't ask me when, but suddenly I'm not seeing he only has 3 fangs instead of 4, and that infected fang on the lower side was gone. So it must have just come out on its own, or like in the movie Castaway, he, you know, took it out on its own, on his own. I don't know, but through whatever miracle, knock on wood, his symptoms got better, the infection cleared, and he didn't need to go through any stressful, painful surgeries. So by the end of September, he was better, and pardon my, I had an itch. And just as he was getting better at the end of September, Sophie started to get sick. I noticed that she was having issues with her mouth as well. So my first thought was, oh shit, is this contagious? Is his gingivitis contagious? And I asked the vet multiple times, and I was assured that no, that gingivitis is not contagious. So purely coincidence, but she was having trouble with her mouth and drooling a little bit, but clear. And I noticed on her chin, she had a bump on her chin, kind of under the fur. So it made her face look a little weird and swollen. And she had a little abscess on the side of her face, kind of like where the whiskers are on her cheek. And in the space of 48 hours, this is literally the first weekend in October, this thing blew up, and the abscess on her cheek went from a tiny pimple to this like olive-sized abscess. It blew up, and it was obviously, it was hard and uncomfortable. It wasn't painful, but it was uncomfortable. So I took her to the vet, and it was determined that she had cancer. Specifically, the suspicion was something called squamous cell carcinoma, which is a cancer that affects them obviously internally, but one of the outer symptoms are these growths and these abscesses. And again, no way to know until these things grew. And by the time she was diagnosed with this cancer, it was too late. She only had weeks to go, and it was terminal. There was really nothing to do, again, except more palliative care. So as Taylor got better, Sophie rapidly declined. I had her on painkillers. I kept her as comfortable as possible. And for the first, I'd say, 2-3 weeks, she hung in there. Her appetite was still strong. She was still Sophie. She lost a tiny bit of weight, like 2 or 3 pounds. She was 15 pounds, so she was a pretty big kind of roly-poly cat all her life. But suddenly she lost a little weight, and her appetite held for the first, I'd say, 2-3 weeks. But by the 3rd, 4th week of October, they definitely taken a nosedive. And forgive my emotions, but she was having trouble eating. She was having trouble cleaning herself. And the vet always said to me, when her quality of life doesn't keep up with what's normal for Sophie, then you'll know it's time to, help her cross the Rainbow Bridge. So by the very first week of November, by like November 1st, she was definitely in a bad way. She was unable to clean herself, and the pain was definitely getting worse, and she was eating less. So I knew at that point that, her time was definitely short, and she was definitely losing a little more weight. So for anybody that's been through this, the pain, the anguish of, you have to make that decision. But knowing exactly when to make that decision, you're making it too late, too early, the right time. Forgive me for sniffling. That definitely plagued me and racked my brain. But uh, the vet that helped me through this, and with Taylor, Dr. Lotus at Garden City Park Animal Hospital in Garden City Park, New York. Shout out to them; they were great. The talking with her, the other thing that happened was the abscess on her face started to burst and bleed. So on top of being unable to clean herself every day, every other day, more and more it was bleeding. So I was having to wash the blood off of her chest and legs, and it just reached a point where her quality of life had taken a huge nosedive. So I made the decision to schedule a Saturday appointment to help her cross the Rainbow Bridge. And Michelle and my friend Ralph went with me and were there. So my heartfelt thanks to Ralph and Michelle for going with me. And on November 9th, 2:15 p.m., Sophie crossed the Rainbow Bridge. So she's gone. And the vet was amazing as can be in those situations. It was, I mean, that morning she was curled up on my lap, but in a lot of pain. And I was able to hold her, wrapped in a blanket while she crossed the Rainbow Bridge. And I was able to wrap her up, and they wrapped her in flowers. They gave me a clipping of her fur in a little container. They gave me one of those paw print things, and I took her home and buried her in my backyard next to Tyler. So if you have to go through that, and the unfortunate part of cat ownership is you have to go through that at some point. It's going to happen. Having a vet, having friends, and a support network is key, but having a vet that takes their time and it kind of guides you through the process and the emotions of doing it, reassuring you that this is for the best. And they were just amazing. Is what I left with was immense sadness, immense guilt, because it's in my nature to never think I've done enough, or I always blame myself. Like, did I miss something? But they were just so amazing, and it was as beautiful a crossing the Rainbow Bridge ceremony as you can ask for. Those things always suck, and I hate them, and I'm mad about the whole situation. She didn't deserve cancer that took her in less than a month. She didn't deserve that. And if there's a God, which I no longer believe, you are free to believe anything you want. I believe in freedom of choice and freedom of belief. But if there is a God, he dropped the ball with this one, is the nicest way I'm going to put that, because she didn't deserve, Taylor's better, but oh yeah, by the way, Sophie has less than a month to live because she has extremely painful cancer in her mouth. Like, Stephen Fry has a pretty strong opinion about God. So I tend to agree with that. So not getting into a whole rant about religion. Uh, we buried her, and they took me to lunch, and that was about 5 weeks ago. So how am I doing since then? Well, Mona is now the queen. Mona's the boss. Mona's been here since she was a 10-week-old kitten. And Sophie very much took her under her paw, under her wing, so to speak. So Sophie taught Mona everything she knew, and Mona immediately took over as the new boss. And all the other cats immediately respected her authority and respected that she's the new boss. And she knows it. she's a diva. It's cute and it's uncanny and scary how much she's like Sophie now in many ways. So, she eats out of Sophie's bowl. She eats on the counter. She eats only what she wants to eat. And, uh, you know, if someone gets too close, she'll hiss and growl. Not me, but if any of the boys do, she's definitely bossy. So she is definitely Sophie's protege. So, she's the new boss. They're all doing okay. Tucker was definitely sad for a few days because it was the two of them alone for years before any other cats came in. So Tucker was sad for a few days for sure. And Taylor was sad too because Taylor, they were both super seniors because he may be as old as 16 or more. So, he was definitely sad for a few days as well. But, the dynamic has shifted because Mona is now in charge and she's much younger. She's only 4.5 at most. So, life carries on. I'm very sad. I miss her. I miss her. The pain does not go away or get any easier. You just get used to not having her here. But the way it happened so suddenly and so painfully and so just like in the blink of an eye, she went from fine to, not here. It's taken a lot to get used to. I look for her all the time. And especially I'm recording this on December 14th. So she loved Christmas. She loved the holidays. She loved sleeping under the tree. So not having her here is doubly painful. So, that's kind of why I've been having difficulty recording new episodes of the show because I've tried a couple of times and I just can't get myself to do it. So I've been kind of taking my time. I know the last episode was the end of October, and I'll have this out before the holidays. And we do have a holiday episode planned with Michelle and I believe one of her friends who loves cats. So we're going to try to record another and get maybe 2 out before the end of December. And, once the holidays are over and the New Year's here, the plan is to pick up with new episodes. We have definitely a lot of guests wanting to come back, and we have some ideas of our own of episodes to record featuring Michelle's cats, and we want to do an episode on coping with loss. I've told you this is to serve as kind of like a where the fuck have I been episode, where the show has been. But I also see this as I want to do an episode on how to cope with grief because this is as painful as losing a loved one, a family member, a spouse. Perhaps more so because she was here for 10 years and she saw me through a lot of shit. She and I went through a lot together between my former relationship and since I was a bachelor and everything. We've been through a lot together. So it is exceedingly difficult not having her here. And I miss her terribly. So I'd like to do a full episode on how to cope with grief. And Michelle agrees with me because she lost her cat Legs in May. So it only took her until just recently to adopt a kitten. She has a new kitten, a tuxedo kitten named Munchichi, that she's in the process of integrating together with Delilah. So, it took her months to cope with her grief. And I don't intend to replace Sophie or get another cat because I have 6, which is enough. And Mona is so seamlessly slipped into Sophie's role that I don't think it would be fair to have any more right now. So that's where I've been. That's where the show has been. Honestly, thank you for your patience. Thank you for sticking by. So many people reached out and called and texts and messaged. And shout out to Chewy, who sent me a bouquet of flowers. And shout out to Garden City Park Animal Hospital and Dr. Lotus. They sent me a lovely card. Other people sent me cards as well. Just so many people reached out. So thanks to everyone for your support through this. Anyone who's lost a cat or dog or pet knows this pain and knows it takes a long time to, especially when it's an as extraordinary a cat as Sophie. So we'll get back to it. We're gonna hopefully I'll have another holiday, a more upbeat holiday episode out before Christmas. And I'd like to also dedicate this episode to actor Tony Todd from Candyman and Final Destination fame. He passed away a couple of weeks ago. And I guess I could divulge this now. Tony Todd and I I'd hinted it in previous episodes, but he was going to be on the show because he has cats, had cats. Well, he was a big cat fan, so he and I shared a love of cats in common, and he had agreed to be on the show, but a lot of his projects got in the way. But unfortunately, we never got a chance to record him or have a chat with him. So I'm also dedicating this to Tony Todd, rest in peace. Big fan of his work. And we'll see you in the next episode.